Good afternoon, everyone. This is Judeliza Liorca from BSBE2 Seat C. Today we will tackle about Lesson 17 entitled Women and the Law. Lesson Objectives. This module discusses about the various Philippines laws affecting women and their rights. At the end of this module, you should be able to first know about the various Philippines laws affecting women. Second, identify the various rights of women. Next, understand the impact of these laws and rights to the Filipino woman and society. Definition of terms. The 1987 Constitution, the fundamental law of the country upon which all the laws are anchored or based on. Magna Carta of Women, the main law enshrining all the rights of women and the roles in building the nation. And last, nation building, collaborative efforts and means to establish and develop the country. Next, the introduction. The 1987 Constitution. Philippines is known for its liberal and progressive constitution that was formulated during the euphoria of people power revolution in 1986. Gender equality is a key element of this charter, and as enshrined in Article 2, Section 14 of the 1987 Constitution, the state recognizes the role of women in nation building and shall ensure the fundamental equality before the law of women and men. Considering the unequal gender relation in the country, the Constitution further provides for women representation as one of the 9 marginalized sectors in the legislature through the partyless system, which should cover 20% of the lower house. Finally, Article 13, Section 14 specifically mentioned that the states shall protect working women by providing safe and healthful working conditions, taking into account their function, and such facilities and opportunities that will enhance their welfare and enable them to realize their full potential in the service of the nation. Next, the various laws promoting gender. The legal framework provided for by the 1987 Constitution resulted the various legislations promoting gender equality. These legislations include, first, a Local Government Code of 1991. It provides for the election of sectoral representation, including women, and local legislative council. Next, party list law provides for the creation of women-oriented or women-based parties to complete under the party list system. Women is one of the 9 sectors identified in the law. Next, Labor Code in 1987 covers issues such as night work prohibition. It specifies that employers must provide special facilities for women, prohibition of discrimination against women in respect to terms and condition of employment, and prohibition of discrimination by reason of marriage of a woman workers. Next is a Women and Nation Building Law. Republic Act 7192 in 1997 is an act promoting the integration of women as full and equal partners of men in development and nation building. The law provides that a substantial portion of government resources be utilized to support programs and activities for women. The law also encouraged the full participation and involvement of women in the development process and to remove gender bias in all government regulations and procedures. In relation to gender budgeting law, specifically mandated all agencies to allocate a minimum of 5% increasing to 30% of all official development funds in mainstreaming gender concerns. 1988 Comprehensive Agrarian Reform Law gave Filipino women the right to own land that previously reverted to sons and other male family members. Next is Republic Act 7688 in 1994, an act giving representation to women in Social Security Commission. Next is Anti-Sexual Harassment Law, RA 7877 in 1995, an act declaring sexual harassment to be unlawful in the employment, education, or training environment. Next is Republic Act 7822 in 1995, an act providing assistance to women engaging in micro and cottage business enterprises. Next is Republic Act 8353 in 1997, an act expanding the definition of the crime of rape, classifying the same as a crime against person. So these laws not only promote gender equality but also gives protection to women's rights and enhances women empowerment. So next we have national programs. Philippines Plan for Gender Responsive Development in 1995 to 2025. The National Plan for Women that consolidates the action commitments of the Philippines during the Beijing World Conference on Women. This is the overall frame that is also the point of reference for the discussions and monitoring of gender mainstreaming. The next is Gender and Development Budget or GED. Integral to the national plan, it is aimed at institutionalizing gender concerns in the mainstream development process and agenda and not just peripheral programs and projects of the government. Concretely, it prescribes for the allocation of 5% of the government agencies or local government units budget on gender responsive activities and projects. As a result, implementation of the development programs and policies of government also means women partaking a role in governance. As primarily stakeholders in the development process, women have the right to maximize their involvement in governance, be it at the local or national level. The last is Framework Plan for Women or FPW. This is part of the Philippines Plan for Women developed to focus on three thrusts, namely promoting women's economic empowerment, advance and protect women human rights, and promote gender responsive governance. This plan identifies the concrete gender issues that will be addressed, pinpoint targets and indicators, name programs, formulates the implementation plan, and set up tools for monitoring and evaluation. So, next, women's right to participate. Women's right to vote was granted in 1937. The Constitution of 1935 stipulated that the right of suffrage would be extended for women only if 300,000 women voted in its favor during a national plebiscite. This consolidated the emerging women's movement and brought to the fore activism of such women as Concepcion Felix de Calderon, who formed the Asociación Feminista Filipina in June 1905, Rosa Sevilla de Alvero, and a young Trinidad Almeida, Miss Constancia Poblete, founder of Liga Femenina de La Paz, Pura Villanueva Calao, and Paz Mendoza Guazon, Pilar Hidalgo Lim, President of the National Federation of Women's Club, and Josefa Lianis Escuda, President of the Girl Scout of the Philippines o Ugnayan ng Kababaihan sa Politika, 1998. The General Council of Women was then established in Manila to direct the plebiscite campaign. Its aim was to draw the support of the broadest number of women. As it turned out, 447,725 women voted yes in the 1937 plebiscite. Interestingly, 44,307 women voted against the provision. What followed was a colorful history of women's foray into the various levels of electoral victories, but generally pushed by familial affiliation and elite association. At present, women's right to vote and participate are maintained and further protected by existing laws at hand. Next, in women's involvement in civil society. Women's expression of involvement in civil society could be through organizing along gender-specific issues and formation of all women groups within broad coalitions as power-enhancing mechanism. Groups such as the Filipina Feminist Movement, the Militant Gabriela Women's Group, the Ugnayan ng Kababaihan sa Politika, or UKP Network of Women in Politics, the Kilos Cabaro or Axe Sisters Coalitions, and Cebol's Legislative Network have trailblazer women advocacies both in policies and legislations. There also exists a so-called Philippine NGO Beijing Scoreboard, which evolved from the National Steering Committee or NSC of NGOs for the United Nations Fourth World Conference on Women, and this led in the national monitoring of the government's implementation of the Beijing Platforms for Action. Along with other women groups and gender-oriented institutions, they have succeeded in raising gender-specific issues such as domestic violence, prostitution, reproductive health, sexual harassment, and rape. Intense lobbying efforts by the women's groups resulted in the passage of several landmark laws. Among them is the Anti-Sexual Harassment Law in 1995 and the Anti-Rape Act in 1997. The gains of the women's movement are basically achieved through various partnerships with the rest of civil society. Next, women and education. The Philippines educational system is a combination of public and private institutions, with the statement providing free education for elementary and secondary levels. The Constitution provides that without limiting the natural rights of parents to rear the children, elementary education is compulsory for all children of school age from Article 16, Section 2. There is no general discrimination of girls in education. Thus, this is no marked differences existing in the educational status of Filipino women and men. One glaring issue is the gender stereotyping of fields of study and specialization and its onward translation into the world of work, where men generally occupy the highest occupational ranks and the higher paying positions. Women's larger responsibility for housework and for the family impedes their ability to use their educational training and skills for remunerative work. Okay, that's all. Thank you for watching and for listening.